Ho 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 and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 11th of December. It's our penultimate podcast of the year and joining me is Assistant Editor Steve Withers.
Is there a garbage chute or a trash compactor?
News Editor Mark Hodgkinson.
I need help with this giant hairy thing.
Audio Reviewer Ed Selley.
Escape now, hug later.
And special guest star Mark Botwright.
Close your eyes. Feel it.
Yes, the force is calling. It's only how many days, Steve, in hours?
I don't know about the hours, but fine. So, 5 days, is it? 6 days.
I don't know.
It depends on whether you think we're going on a Wednesday night or very early on a Thursday morning.
Or both.
I'm sticking with Wednesday night for me.
It's 5 days. 5 days, really. 5 days, midnight. Anyway, getting excited. It's time to go. And this is our last full house of 2017. Like I say, penultimate podcast. Right, so what are we doing for Christmas, Ed?
Oh, you called me just as I was doing coffee. I'm down at my parents' this year, and I'm in charge of barbecuing the turkey, which I'm quite excited about, actually, because, you know, that's a significant responsibility for me to oversee on Christmas Day, which means that I probably will be able to hold off getting completely hammered until at least mid-afternoon.
And is this barbecued turkey?
Yes, as I say, every year my parents barbecue the turkey. It actually makes superb sense in the context of keeping the kitchen free of a gigantic bird to try and cook around. And I'm not referring to my mother in that instance. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then there'll be Christmas 2 with my in-laws at some point between Boxing Day and the New Year. And then I imagine that I will round off the year frantically finishing all of my reviews for you.
And copious amounts of beer, or are you staying off the beer?
I am undoubtedly going to drink the real thing at various actual festival points of the year of the season, but for the moment I'm just continuing happily with my alcohol-free stuff. You know, it's not as good as the real thing, but it's good enough, and you know, I'm thinner and fractionally better off as a result of it. So you know, I can't argue with that.
And any comeback from your chili the other day? You'll need to explain to everybody what you were tweeting about and what you ate.
Actually, I ate more of it last night. I was wandering around Tesco's and I thought, I know, I'll do a very slow cooked chili. I'll do beef brisket, and it will take, you know, best part of half a day to do it. And I was in the chili section and I noticed that they had Carolina Reaper chilies for sale, which is technically the hottest chili on earth.
Nice.
I thought, well, you know.
How much did you put in?
I used a single entire Carolina Reaper.
No.
Yes.
Mistake.
No. Hear me out on this. I do have some experience dealing with extremely hot chili. So what I did, first of all, I made no skin to chili contact. So I chopped it up using 2 implements rather than 1, and instead of actually leaving whole chunks of Reaper in there, which I thought would be a very bad idea, it was blended up as part of the tomato, coriander and basil mix, and then went in
with
that
seeds.
way. No, I de-seeded as much as possible. And do you know what? It's an interesting one, because for the first 5 hours of cooking, it was like I have accidentally created. This isn't food; it's an assault weapon. And I sort of stuck some, you know, animated gifs, however you want to pronounce it, on Twitter. It's like, I don't think this is the best idea I've ever had. Interestingly, by about hour 9, it starts to mellow off. Now, please don't misunderstand me here. The result when I ate it was still bastard hot, but it was actually really pleasant. The Carolina Reaper is related to the Scotch bonnet, and it's the same. There's the same definite actual flavour as well as heat imparted, and provided that you only use one of them in what is a relatively large chili, the result actually, I have to say, has been very pleasant. And no, I haven't had any terrifying Ring of Fire style post chili.
Has anybody else in the house eaten it, or is it just you?
Just me. Because I don't think feeding it to my son is the best idea I've ever had, and my wife is a vegetarian.
Okay, I just wanted to check
no.
It, see if you had a second opinion on it.
I would suggest that, you know, if you are someone that has cooked with relative success with Scotch bonnets before, give it a go. Just bear in mind that you're looking to reduce the amount you're using over Scotch bonnets by, I'd say, roughly 50%. I'd have used 2 Scotch bonnets in the same chili. I'd just use one of these things. And be very careful with any additional sources of chili and heat. So I just did my normal chipotle instead of the one with habaneros in it. And I just used mild chili powder as a sort of flavourant rather than trying to boost it any further. It was actually really tasty. I think it does its best work when you leave it for a long time to cook. But Tesco's, it would appear, they're not selling them for a joke. They are a genuinely usable foodstuff, provided that you're careful. And the person on Twitter who said, wear gloves, they're absolutely right. I didn't wear gloves, but I did make sure that I didn't come into physical contact with it, because I suspect
I didn't go for a pee in between.
Or rub your eye.
Or rub your eyes. Or indeed try and come into contact with my son, and then be just have a 4-year-old just wailing like you've tear gassed him. So yeah, be careful. But no, I'm genuinely pleased. At some point next year, I think I'll do it again.
Okay, just not while we're in Vegas, because I don't think me and Steve could handle that.
Do you remember those chicken wings you ordered?
Yeah.
Phil, they were so hot I could smell the chili as they were bringing the plate up.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was that PF Cheng's?
No. This was a few years ago. This was when we stayed in the hotel when we were there at MGM, and we used to go to this cafe every day for lunch and stuff, because it was on the Strip, but it was one of the cheapest places on the Strip, so that's where we ended up eating. And I mistakenly said, "Oh, I'll have the spicy wings," and
it was the hot spicy.
She hadn't even had the chance to put the plate on the table, and I said, "Sorry, you're gonna have to take them away and bring something mild for me."
You could feel the heat. It was just that you just knew they were going to be bastard hot.
Yeah.
Without even tasting them.
And
that's when you get something really hot, is when you can kind of smell the chilies coming off it, and it starts to make your eyes sting before you've even tasted it.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
Exactly what it was like.
Essentially capsicum extract. It's just having a tear gas effect. Yeah. So.
There was an Iceland ghost chili curry once. Strangely enough, it disappeared fairly quickly. They didn't even cut the chili up into it. They just had it resting on it. And then you microwaved it and then took the chili out. And still, I love really hot food, but I was crying. You don't want to see that.
No.
It's, I mean, as I say, if you don't like hot food, don't use Carolina Reapers. But I was really taken with it.
Good. And we haven't heard from our resident chef yet. What do you make of all this, Mark?
I like hot food. I don't like it to sting the back of your throat or make you cry though. I saw something on I can't remember, it was a website, but you can get Carolina Reaper drops, so you can just drop it in there.
Yeah,
with it in a prepare. So if you don't want to prepare it or make the risk of preparing, just put a couple of drops in.
You ever had any chili accidents, Mark?
Yeah, the genital one. Yeah, having worked in a kitchen. Yeah,
we've all had that one.
More than once.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right, so
I would just wear gloves in the end. I think just put gloves on.
Yeah, so continue.
And don't even think about scratching your arse either.
No, luckily I didn't do that.
I used Hungarian hot wax once, and it managed to get through my trousers.
A what?
Hungarian what?
Hungarian hot wax. That's another kind of
that one.
Yeah, like kind of habanero, small but powerful.
Like yourself, man.
Yeah.
So
welcome to the chili special.
Well, I was saying this is really festive. So what are you doing for Christmas, Mr. Botwright?
Just family round and just generally that.
Everybody round to yours?
Yeah, probably have a Nerf gun fight with my nephew, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Good stuff. And Mr. Withers, what are you doing? Staying at home? Going away?
Staying at home. If I have my way, I shall be spending a week watching lots of films and stuffing my gob with chocolates. But we'll see that if I get to do that. Because that's the true spirit of Christmas, isn't it, in my opinion?
Yeah.
No, the true spirit of Christmas, for me, is always getting too much shortbread. I made the mistake of telling someone that I like shortbread, and so each Christmas you get about 3 of those family packs.
Yeah. This year I've asked for dollars, US dollars.
not Bitcoin.
No, Bitcoin's just a bit too much, but I've asked for American
I want a
dollars.
reserve currency.
Yeah. No, genuinely, I've asked for US dollars, please.
And presumably you're
on Ford accessories in America. Any chance?
Well, I was on Google Maps the other night, so we've got the Mustang shop, which is not too far away from where we're staying. We've got the Shelby US build centre, it's not too far away, and Drake muscle car stuff's in Henderson, which again is not too far away. So I've been doing my research, asking for dollars.
And presumably leaving all of your clothes in the flat and coming back with, I don't know, a a front suspension assembly in
Well,
your hold luggage.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Just maybe going to Matalan and just buying 3 or 4 shirts that I'm prepared to throw away and then replace them with car parts.
After last year's embarrassment with me being both as a person and my luggage substantially overweight, I have to think a bit more carefully this year, because I will be coming back with records, including I'm going to try and risk having some records sent to me by a nice man who's currently in Minnesota, who ordered some records for me. He's been holding on to them for about 6 months. I might try and get them sent to the apartment, although I don't know how well that will work.
I'm fully envisaging both you and Phil trying to come back on a plane wearing all your clothes at once.
I'll tell you what, Mark, right? You laugh, but last year I had all the video equipment on me, right? They had the small Osmo cameras, right? So there was nothing they needed to bring other than clothing and a laptop each. Steve managed that quite easily. Ed, on the other hand, I don't know what the hell he had in his bag, because it was overweight going out.
Let's be fair here. I had my own camera, which is not light. So that was taking up.
That's just a camera. That's only a few pounds.
There's quite a lot of it. It's about 4 or 5 kilos.
Put it this way: me and Steve both looked at each other when Ed turned up and thought, "He's overweight." years and years. Years and years of practice of flying with cameras and tripods and everything else, and getting some underpants in there and some clothes. Yeah, you need some practice, Ed.
Yeah, well, I've managed to, my laptop is half the weight, including its power supply, over last year's model. That's at least another 4 or 5 records you can get in there. Exactly. Also, I just need to take lighter jumpers, because I had some heavy woolens last time round.
Yeah, you don't need that where we're going. T-shirts and short sleeve T-shirts and shirts. That's all you need when you're.
It's a learning experience. I'm learning all the time, slowly, badly, but learning.
Don't make the mistake that me and Steve made. I think it was 2011 when we were there. We thought, let's go to Monument Valley. It's the desert. It'll be nice and hot. No. What we forgot was it was 6,000 feet above sea level in January, so it was covered in snow and it was about -15.
It was cold. Because I think the thin air made it feel even colder. It was like being at 60,000 feet or something.
I was a smoker at the time, and I went out on the balcony of the room to try and have a cigarette, and it was so cold that every time the hot air hit the back of my throat, I was coughing for about half an hour, so you couldn't have a cigarette. And then I made the other mistake of putting a metal tripod out there to shoot a time lapse of the sunrise, and went out to collect it and put my hand on the metal tripod, and my hand stuck into the tripod.
Oof.
It was an impressive time lapse shot, so it was worth it. I think
it was worth it for the shot, yeah. But
do you know what I'm looking forward to more than anything else is reacquainting myself with the Coyote. You know, yeah. I've missed that, the greatest radio station on earth.
102.7 the Coyote. The Coyote.
The Coyote. That's the medieval version.
Yeah, obviously, when you said that there, I was thinking, why are you talking about a V8? Because
yes, that's a type of Ford modular engine.
It's what's in my Mustang. I thought, why are you mentioning that? Anyway, yes, country radio, country music radio. Or is it country and western? Oh no, they have country and western.
Yeah, they've got both types. So
right, shall we do a podcast then?
Yeah. What time did you have to be gone by, Ed?
22 minutes in, and we haven't even got to the competitions.
Yeah, okay. Well, Mr. Botwright, why don't you do the competitions for it? You got your glasses this week.
Yep. You can win a copy of Atomic Blonde on Blu-ray. That one closed on the 12th of December. You can also win a Dream Screen Smart Backlighting Kit. That one runs to a day later, 13th. You can also win a MiView C330 dash cam, and that one also closes on the 13th. You can win one of 2 Kit Sound Voice One speakers with Alexa. That one runs a bit later, till 12th of January. And you can also win a Blue Sound Node 2 worth £499, courtesy of Seven Oaks. And that one runs till the 15th of January.
Okay, some great competitions there for you to enter. And previous competition winners, Mark?
None.
But there will be a lot next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Look forward
provided that you all enter, you know. Not us in the podcast, you listeners get entering. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, hardware news.
They've got one day, by the way, to do that in.
Well, get on with it then.
Yeah, fine. Just make sure that you're listening on the Monday, because on the Tuesday you've had it. Right. Editor's Choice Awards. We did quite a few of them last week. We're going to finish them off this week, and we're not going to go into them in too much detail because they're all on the homepage for you to go and read and take your time and go through and take in what it is that we're telling you to go and buy, or to at least add to your demo list. So let's start with tech and mobile first of all, because it's the shortest one. It's the one I've got up on screen as well, so make it nice and easy. So basically, tech and mobile, we don't do a hell of a lot of tech reviews or mobile reviews, but what we do, we do them really well, and we do the products that most people want to know about. So I guess, Steve, it's no surprise that the best mobile phone of 2017 was an Apple.
Yeah, this is David Phelan's choice. He reviewed all the mobile phones for us this year. I think it's been a good year for mobile phones. There's been some interesting products, but I've got to say I was not surprised to discover that he chose the mobile phone iPhone X or 10, depending on how you look at it, because I think Apple really pulled out the stops, didn't they, on this one, because they felt like they were falling behind a bit to people like Samsung. So they delivered a phone that's got an OLED screen. First time they've done that. Much bigger screen size, wider screen size. Similar design, but really nice materials as you'd expect from Apple, and a shed load of features, including facial recognition. So he was impressed by it. I was impressed by it. I was quite tempted, but let's be honest, it's well expensive. Aside from that, though, it is a classy piece of kit, and it's winner of best mobile phone or smartphone of 2017.
Yep, good stuff. And you mentioned facial recognition technology, and that's what we've given Mobile Phone Technology 2017 Best Innovation Award.
Yeah.
And this one goes to Samsung, not Apple.
Well, they were the first to introduce it, so I think they should get kudos for that. I mean, yes, it is on things like the iPhone X, but Samsung were the first to bring it in. And for those of us who are too lazy to put our thumb on a thumbprint can recognize it, or in my case, it never seems to recognize my thumbprint. The number of times my phone does not recognize my thumbprint.
Yeah,
it's a bit
same
scary. Here. Yeah, it's really annoying. So all you need to do is pick up your phone, literally just look at it, and it recognizes you, and you're away. Obviously, that does mean there's been an ancillary market now for things like face masks to wear when you're asleep, so people can't get your phone, hold it to your face while you're asleep, and then access it. But yeah, have you not seen that? No. They're selling them in China, basically like balaclavas.
I don't think it was a serious product.
No, I don't think so.
To be fair.
No, I think it's a serious product. I would not put it past China.
I'll tell you what. If somebody's brave enough to break into my house, move my phone over to my face while I'm sleeping, and then get out again, kudos to them. They can have the phone. Absolutely, have it. Although saying that, what I did buy this week was 2 RFID blocker key bags. Lots of people at the minute having their car stolen. If you have keyless entry, like I do in my car, they are using basically what's called a booster. So they come up to your house and they try and find where the key is in the house, and then they boost the signal to another device next to the car, which unlocks the car, and then that stores the signal, so it tricks the car into thinking that the key is in the car, and they drive off with your car.
Yeah, I saw a video on that. It took about a minute, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of bags that you can use to kind of block your cards being read.
Yeah,
and
well,
stuff like that.
I've got a wallet that's RFID, so I can have all my contactless cards in there, and it won't. If I hold it up to the machine, it won't take the reading off the card. Card has to be out of the wallet for it to do that. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I saw that.
Living in a high-tech world, isn't it? Really.
I saw that same video, Mark, and then I looked up on a few of the other sites, and I saw there was a lot of cars with keyless getting stolen. So I bought one for myself. So the spare key's in one all the time, and the other key, as soon as it comes out my pocket, it goes in the bag when it's sitting in the house. Because it doesn't matter where it is in the house, as long as they can get a signal from it and boost that signal to the car to open it. And then the device that they boost the signal to, it then keeps repeating, so it thinks the key's there. So
whatever happened to old-fashioned muggers?
or a coat hanger down the side of the window.
Yeah. I mean, I know they're using it for unscrupulous means, but you got to say that's really quite clever. On
that coat hangers thing, did you ever hear the story about Jason McAteer, the footballer, when he got locked out of his car?
Trigger.
Yeah.
That was his nickname, wasn't it?
Got locked out of his car, and a policeman comes along, and it was something like he just bought a new Porsche, and he says, "Oh, well, if you've got a coat hanger, we might be able to try that." So he went in and came out with a wooden coat hanger. What was he thinking about doing? He said, "Well, I thought he'd smash the window with it."
Anyway, I think we're way off tangent yet again.
So let's facial recognition.
Yeah, facial recognition. Well done. So the Editor's Choice Best Tech of 2017 is Amazon's Alexa.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that voice assistants are the new big thing. Alexa's the one I think that's best known, and I certainly find it really useful. I know it's not necessarily the most intuitive. I think there are probably better voice. I mean, Mark's probably done more research into this than me, but I do find my Alexa devices really useful. Mark, you've been going full in, haven't you, in terms of controlling your house?
I've got a bit smart control crazy actually. I've got a Logitech Elite remote and hub. I've got 5 Hue lights, 3 Alexa enabled devices, and 1 Google Assistant around the place. I mean, like you say, it's not the most intuitive thing, and it's not 100% reliable. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I had an argument with Alexa really about switching the lights on. I said, "Can you switch?" I asked her to switch the lights off. She said, "No, that's attached to a device activity." I said, "I still want the lights off." I had to say it in another way to get to turn the lights off. I could have just switched them off with a fucking wall, but.
It is getting a bit much if you're sitting there and you say, "Alexa, switch the Christmas tree on."
Yeah, no, I can do that because I've got a smart
Jesus
plug.
Christ.
Yeah, I can say, "Alexa, it's Christmas," and it triggers the lights to come on and the smart plug to be activated and the Christmas tree lights come on.
She starts playing.
I can also get it to start playing music as well, so I can play that. Yeah.
But getting her to play music is pretty difficult. If you ask her to play Christmas songs, you get some weird shit. And then you're like, no, classic Christmas rock songs, pop songs. Trying to get her to play, things like, some Slade.
Yeah.
Bloody hard, unless
you best create your own playlist, and then get into play your playlist.
At this point, Ed's sitting there baffled, thinking, how does she get the tone arm onto the record?
It's very clever.
No, I'm not particularly interested in these things. I don't like the idea of having a wiretap in my house. And I have found it thus far, even when I had a broken leg, I didn't find it too onerous to turn my own bloody lights on and off. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has got it, and he rejoices in saying, "Alexa, stop Christmas," and it turns all the Christmas lights off.
But I'm sure there's some liberals out there saying it's really quite sexist that you're telling a woman to do things around the house.
Can't you have a male voice as well? I seem to remember. Isn't that a possible?
Not Alexa, no.
Not Alexa, no.
Oh, I thought maybe Google's got 2 voices. I can't remember. I just can't be bothered. It's this is me getting old. I have no problem with admitting it, but I just at the moment cannot see how it actually benefits my life. There's the nagging security worries as well.
I've got a couple of lamps that are awkwardly placed actually in the corners of rooms, and they're a bit of a pain to switch off because you have to bend over tables and what have you. So it's quite handy for turning them on and off. But really, practically, it's not making a great deal of difference to my life. I just like it.
The height of laziness. And that wins our award for the year. So well done, Amazon Alexa. Right,
we're on our way to the people in Wally, aren't we? Basically.
Yep, that's where we're going. Right, so we really need to move things along. Best Projectors of 2017 under our editor's choice. So this was my responsibility, this area, because I tend to look at most of the projectors. So we're going to be quite quick here because there's not a lot to look at, but you can go and read all about them and why we chose them. And again, just to point out that these are products that we have had to review in the last 12 to 18 months, and they have to still be products that are in the manufacturer's lineup and available till at least the end of this year, 2017. Right, so projector under £1,000. Really tough to pick this one because there's lots and lots and lots of projectors under £1,000. They all have their own little things that they do really quite well, and it'll basically come down to what it is that you're looking for at the end of the day in terms of use. So if it's a home entertainment projector, there's lots out there from BenQ who do it really quite well. 33 milliseconds for gaming, lag input, really nice and bright, fairly accurate in terms of colour, but it's more about the big screen thing. But our winner, and the reason it did win was because we were looking for something that was a bit more home cinema related, but still did gaming and big screen sports and movies and 3D. And 3D is still a big thing with projectors, and that was the Optoma HD27. Absolutely cracking little machine, really bright, really colourful, really portable. Built to last, so it's something that you could put in a cupboard, bring out, shine it at a white wall, or you could do it properly and ceiling mount it and have an electric screen, roll down screen or whatever. So lots of flexibility there. It did really well when it came to Rec 709, which is what you want for HD video. And again, good motion for sports, good motion for 3D. and yeah, gaming wise as well, it was about 30 odd milliseconds as well, so really, really good machine that. So that gets our best under 1,000. Best under 3,000 was the Epson TW93. This has got to be the bargain of the year, Steve. Apart from the size, because it is huge.
It's a big unit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about the same size as a JVC basically. But just in terms of what it does, I mean, DCI-P3 standard, because it's got a cinema filter in there. Now it does affect the brightness a little bit. This is really a projector you want to have in a really blacked out room, but it does really accurate PQ curve for HDR. It does really good Rec 709 when the filter's not in the light path. It has a motorized lens cover, which, you know, projectors costing several, and I'm looking at the Sony's here, which start at like £6,000, don't even have that. And it also has lens memory function for use with a scope screen, so you're getting all the big features as well as a cracking performer as well for under £3,000.
Crazy value, crazy. And
of course, if you want more light output, you get all that with the laser projector as well, which we haven't seen the updated 10500. But we did review the original one, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, that was a cracking machine. I think that laser projectors generally are going to be a bigger thing going forward from a lot of manufacturers. Obviously, we've seen them from we're going to talk about one in a minute, but we've seen them from Sony as well. I know that Optoma have one in the pipeline. So, and of course, the benefit is you not only is it bright, but also you get a much wider color gamut too, so you can get a full DCI-P3 coverage. And yeah, I think that's something we're going to be seeing a lot more of going forward.
Yeah, it's just a shame that Sony couldn't get their VW760 to us in time for the end of the year. Unfortunately, they did try and get one to us, but it fell by the wayside, unfortunately. We'll be looking at that one probably January, February time, so keep an eye out for that. So moving on to best projector over £3,000. Again, this was a big field, lots of good competing models in here. The winner was the JVC X5900, which is a £4,000 unit.
Yeah, just a shade under £4,000.
Yeah, just under £4,000. Now, the reason we went for this one is we could have went for the 7900, X7900, which I'm busily finishing the review for now, so we have seen that one. And it's a cracking machine, stonking machine, but it's a lot more money.
Yeah, so is it 5.5, is it?
Yeah, £5,500. And then you got the two Sonys, so you got the VW260 and the VW360, which we both reviewed. And again, they're good machines, but really, really overpriced.
And that's why it's not. People were asking why there are no Sonys on the list. You can explain exactly why there are no Sonys.
That is why there is no Sonys on the list. Yeah, they're good machines, but they did have slightly raised black levels compared to the 550, the VW 550 that I reviewed last year. For the HDR side of things, they still have that gamma, behind the scenes gamma switching. Now it wasn't too much on the 260, but certainly with the 360 with the dynamic iris, it was still affecting the image, even though the dynamic iris was switched off. So we don't really like backdoor stuff, but it was mainly value for money, and they are really expensive. But the thing is, if you want a native 4K projector, they're the only game in town. If you want one with lens memory functionality and dynamic iris and so on, you're going to have to pay the £7,000 for the VW360. So that's why it's still got a recommended badge, because it is the only game in town doing that. But when you compare it to certainly the 5900, and the performance isn't that far out, and I would probably push it and say that the black levels and shadow detail and dynamic range probably a bit better.
Oh, definitely. I think, yes, it's not native 4K, obviously, but apart from that, I'd say black level performance, shadow detail, color gamut is wider, color tracking is better, color accuracy, fully spec'd HDMI inputs, plus you've got low input lag, 3D support. I mean, for less, just under £4,000, absolutely staggering value for money, and the performance level is superb. Yes, you can get better blacks if you go up to the 7900, but as you say, Phil, that is an additional £1,500, so that's a lot of money to top of that. But I think value for money wise, the 5900, absolutely stonking projector.
Okay, and best projector innovation for 2017. Again, another couple of things that we could have gone with, but I think the main one for us was finally JVC adding a native 4K DILA device from their professional department, adding that into, I was going to say a consumer product, but it's more a product aimed at custom install, just because of the sheer price of it at the minute, because it's not cheap. And it just points to the fact that, we were saying the Sonys are the only native projectors in the consumer market. They're still not cheap because the economies of scale are still not there to get the price down far enough, I think, to get under the £5,000 mark at the minute. Which is, when you look at the Z1, you then look at the glass. Now this is where the money goes. Into the device, the 4K device, and then into the glass, because the lens on this thing is just a work of art. And the image that you can get from it, although the first time we had it through, it had the wrong firmware on, it was a bit underwhelming. But once it had the firmware updated to the latest version, it improved the performance quite some bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about, like you say, Phil, it's native 4K, it's got seriously expensive quality glass in there. The accurate, the sharpness and detail in the image, on a big screen was quite noticeable because of that. Plus, the new firmware meant you got better black levels than you were getting before. Very bright, thanks to the laser light source, and very wide color gamut, good tracking, accurate, and easily the best. I mean, we've been talking for a long time about how HDR isn't that impressive on a projector, but this is easily the best HDR performance I've seen from any projector. So in that sense, it delivers the goods. I mean, the Sony VW760 would have been a contender for this award if you'd actually been able to see it. And obviously, we should give kudos to Epson, who were first out of the door with a consumer laser projector a few years ago now with the original 10,000. And now they've got a 10,500, which is still available. So they should certainly give some kudos for being the first to market. But I think everyone had been crying out for a 4K DILA projector, native 4K projector, and JVC finally delivered this year with the Z1. And overall, it was a very impressive projector, although, as you say, it ain't cheap.
No, 35 grand is a lot of money. In fact, that's Mustang money. And I know where
but
my
we should
money
see
would
it
go.
trickle down. We should see it trickle down.
Okay, so that wraps up Projectors. Like I say, if we want to find out more about our choices and why and what the features are and prices, then go and read the article. It's on the homepage now. And moving on to the last segment that we're going to talk about, and the last of the Editor's Choice for this year, but we will be doing them again next November. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So it's a little bit away, but at least we know what we're doing for next year. Right, so first year out of the way, and we're going to finish off with the best AV streaming services and devices. And finally, on a podcast in 2017, Mark Hodgkinson's going to say more than 5 words.
Oh, well, you don't know that yet.
Well, that's very true. Right, so we'll leave the overall media player for the end. So let's move down to media player remote of the year. Now, why did we pick a remote control?
This is a good question. It's quite an important part of the experience, isn't it? The interaction between yourself and the device. And actually, typically, the remotes that come with these things are a bit cheap and nasty, to be quite honest, or small and slightly functionless, or difficult to use, as we'll get to later. So I went for an old-fashioned handset that's got loads of buttons on it. It's got a backlight. It's got all the functions you need. Some useful skipping functions and what have you. It's big. It's not particularly well made, but it's got the most comprehensive of the ones I've tested, and that was the PT Duo 4K HDR, or any of the 4K HDR family. It was the best of a somewhat bad bunch, I would say.
Okay. But just to clarify, you can only use this with as a PT players.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It's
not program. Yeah, right. So it's not a programmable remote.
Well, you can do it'll learn IR for power and volume of your TV.
Right, but you have to have it as a PT device. So that's where it's just to avoid confusion here. We're not saying this is a Harmony replacement in any way.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so that's our media player remote of the year. You have to buy as a PT player to get it, but there you go. Media player for Kodi 2017. Kodi's had a really bad year in 2017.
Yeah, well, it gets a lot of bad press through probably no fault of its own. The fact that it's open source and anyone can develop for it, and it's quite easy to develop for, and it's such a comprehensive media player that will play online as well as local stuff, and it's very customizable. It can be a victim of its own greatness, really, enormous in a lot of ways. So people use it for nefarious methods, for accessing content that they're not really entitled to, unfortunately. But as a local media organizer and player, it's pretty much unparalleled in terms of its versatility and comprehensiveness of what it will play. So, and also it's on a lot of platforms. So yeah, it's just a fantastic bit of software, really. I could have chosen Plex, which is very similar, but I don't find it quite as customizable, and I like to tinker, so I went with Kodi.
So that's our media player app of the year, and then we have our media player for Kodi, which was
That was the OSMC Vero or Vero 4K. I'm not quite sure which way you say it, but that is specifically designed to run Kodi. So it's got a just enough operating system basically running behind it. But yeah, it's a dedicated Kodi player almost. It's got a few Linux functions, Debian to be precise. But yeah, it's fast. It supports virtually everything apart from FramePack 3D, but that's in the works. It's just a very solid player that is easy to set up and you can be up and running, in minutes and have all the benefits of Kodi on top of that.
Okay, how much is that?
How much is it? $99.99, I think, at the moment.
All right.
I'm in the market for one.
Okay. 100 notes there then. Media player for streaming apps. So this is basically for playing stuff like Amazon, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, Netflix, all that kind of thing. So this was your favourite for playing them all, basically.
Yeah, and that's the Roku Streaming Stick Plus, which really does have everything bar iTunes for understandable reasons. It's got 4K and HDR versions of most of the apps you'd want. The Amazon at the minute is no HDR, but it is 4K. It does automatic refresh rate switching and dynamic range switching pretty effortlessly, unless you connect it to certain AV receivers where it does start to struggle. Apparently, I've not had any problems, but I've read of a couple of instances where people are having problems with their AVR, but yeah, it's got virtually every base covered, and yeah, as we've seen actually in the news this week, as we were talking with Google and Amazon falling out, and therefore YouTube being removed from Fire TV devices, Roku remains platform agnostic, which is a big benefit really, because it's just got everything you need, and in a tiny little package that just works without fuss. It's really, really simple interface, really, really easy to use, and it's got everything you want bar iTunes.
Okay, so similar category, but this time for 4K UHD playback this year. What's the best media player out there for that, in your opinion?
Right. Well, went slightly off a tangent here, and this is probably one more for Steve. But I went for the Apple TV 4K, basically because of the reasonableness of the cost of 4K and HDR movies on iTunes, and what Apple have done there is quite revolutionary, I think, and really going to bring 4K to the attention of more people.
Yeah. So Steve
by
was
making it affordable.
Yeah. So Steve was going to get rid of his Apple TV 4K, and I think you were going to replace it with a Roku, weren't you, Steve?
I did get a Roku. Having said that, the Apple TV's had a couple of major updates recently that are making it possibly my preferred choice again, because they first of all they fixed the fact it now outputs HDR only when the content is in HDR. It's got auto refresh rate, which is great. They've also added Amazon. They've added iTV Player and all Channel 5. So it's only missing all four, and it'll have the full set of catch-up services, plus now Netflix, Amazon, and YouTube. So actually, I'm thinking of putting it back in again. I've got an embarrassment of riches here. I can go either way. So
I'd heard that. Right, so wrapping up this section, Mark, our overall media player for 2017. When I say wrapping up, this is like your input on this bit, because there's still a few other bits to talk about. But overall media player 2017, you've had a little bit of stick for your choice here.
I've gone with the NVIDIA Shield TV, which is it was originally released in 2015, but they did refresh the product line in this year, so it's a valid choice. It's not perfect. It's got some shortcomings. It doesn't do automatic refresh rate switching on the likes of Netflix and iPlayer. You have to manually do it. It's got one or two color space issues. It's got a few pass-through issues now and again. As a sort of an in-between wanting it for the mainstream apps and using it as a local and network media player, it's the best, in my opinion. It's the best mix of the two. It's not ideal. There's still things that are missing, and you can't just have one device if you want absolutely every service. You at least need two. But if you did want to sit in between, being a local and an internet streaming device, then I think that is the best bet.
Okay.
Still.
Good stuff. Right, so and to wrap up the video streaming side of things, our best video streaming service for 2017, I don't think there was any. I don't think there was.
Could there have been any other winner?
That's just what I was thinking. I was just trying to word that, Steve. I was thinking, how do I word this? Yes, it was a pretty obvious choice, wasn't it, that it was going to be Netflix. Amazon are doing a great job, don't get me wrong, but I only use Amazon for little bits and pieces now and again. Netflix is my go-to, and after Netflix, it's now TV before I go to Amazon. So for me, Netflix definitely, and I think the reason for that, and hopefully I'll get some backing from the others on the podcast here, is just the quality of the shows, the TV shows that's on there. It's not for the movies, although they are getting better in terms of movies being on there a lot sooner than they used to be, and some good quality movies on there. But it's the TV shows, and it's the fact that Netflix are putting billions of dollars into production of their own things. And for me, it's series like Stranger Things and Stranger Things 2. I mean, where else would you get to see a series like that? You're not going to get to see that on terrestrial TV. And it's making stuff like that. And I know you Steve, you've been really getting into Mindhunter and The Punisher and series like that, which I've yet to have time to watch. But at least I know they're there, and if I've got a spare hour or so, I can pick up a new series and get into it, because a lot of them are really quite quality in terms of production
absolutely.
Values and story and so on.
I mean, just in the last 2 months, we've had Stranger Things 2, The Punisher, and Mindhunter, and these have been class shows with production values that would rival any feature film. And in fact, in many respects, are better than a lot of feature films, because they've got the time to spend. They can spend time with characters. They don't treat you like an idiot. They don't have to go and rush to the next explosion. Things like Mindhunter, for example, absolutely superb show, directed by David Fincher. This is quality stuff they're producing. But I also think Netflix deserve kudos for pushing technology boundaries as well, because they're the ones that were first to push 4K, HDR, Dolby Vision, now Dolby Atmos. There's some good work being done by people like Amazon and the BBC, don't forget, with iPlayer, which is going to start doing 4K HLG next week with Blue Planet 2. But I think overall, Netflix are just top of the game as far as both technology and content are concerned, and that's what we want, right?
Yeah, and when you look at the price for it as well, it's now $9.99 if you want a number of devices and your 4K Ultra HD HDR stuff. That's still outstanding. It's a tenner, but it's still outstanding value when you look at exactly what you are actually getting there in terms of not just the TV shows, but the movie lineup. Like I say, it is getting better month on month, I think.
I don't really use it for movies like you, but the amount of TV shows, high quality, and the originals is sensational. Really, I could keep myself going all year with what they've got on there, other than obviously live TV. But yeah, for TV shows, I could happily, with what they've got now, keep myself going for 2 years.
Yeah.
The amount of TV I watch.
I mean, it used to be that we used to not only go looking at Netflix US and other countries and so on, but that's really died away now, because I think the quality right across the board in terms of UK, we don't feel like we're not getting everything now. We feel like we're getting our fair share of quality stuff, whereas in the past you had to go to the US Netflix to find the decent stuff.
I can still get on US Netflix, but yeah, like you said, I very rarely use it. It's the kids now. Occasionally, there's a few series that they can't get on UK Netflix that they might switch over to US for, but more or less all the time it's UK now.
Okay, so that's our best video streaming service of 2017. Our Editor's Choice Award goes to Netflix. Congratulations to them. Right, staying with streaming, but we're moving from video to audio and music. And the best music streaming product of 2017 is, Ed?
The Auralic Aries Mini. And this has been chosen because it is just a superb basis for any audio streaming system, and it's a really clever product. You can use it as a conventional network client. Alternatively, you can use it as a server as well. It's got space for a hard drive. It's got perfectly decent decoding on board, but it also has a variety of digital outputs, so you can connect it to higher quality decoding if you fancy. Then what wraps it all up, and the reason really why it has this award, is the quality of its interface. The Lightning streaming app that Auralic uses is pretty much head and shoulders above anything else I've used recently. And I mean, I'm a huge Name fan. I like their app very much, but I've got to be honest, Lightning is absolutely sensational. It's iOS only, which I suppose has to be counted against it, but it is really genuinely excellent. And the good news is, if you don't like the look of the Aries Mini, which is, let's face it, a little plastic box, Lightning is on all Auralic products, and it really gives them an advantage in this instance.
Okay, so that gets our Editor's Choice, a badge for best music streaming product. That's the Auralic Aries. Right, rounding up on this section, our best music streaming service 2017, and in terms of AVForums, always striving for the best quality. We didn't pick Tidal, which did surprise me, because I've got access to Tidal, you have, Ed. I know that Steve's got access to it. Mark, you've got Tidal as well, haven't you?
I've got everything.
Yeah, so show off. But we've all gone for Spotify, and I guess the reason for that is that it doesn't have to be lossless to be easy to use, available on so many devices, and the content's there. I've never not been able to find something on Spotify, whereas I've had trouble on Tidal and other services to find exactly what I'm looking for. And it might only be 320 kilobits per second, but when you're using it on devices like a mobile phone with some headphones in, or you're using it in the car, and if you've got a car that has Apple iPlay or Android Auto, which I have, it's so compatible. It brings everything up in terms of Spotify. So it brings all your menus up. It brings up your recently listened to lists. It brings up stuff that you've saved, and you can do that across various devices. So I've got it on my iMac, I've got it on my MacBook Pro, I have it in the car, I've got it on my iPhone. I guess just the easy use, the fact that it's always there and it's easy to find, trumps it over Tidal. And don't get us wrong, we love Tidal, we love the playlists on Tidal, and we like the Masters stuff on Tidal. But I would say Tidal's more for using with a really high-end system or a really nice system where you want the best quality, whereas Spotify, it's down and dirty, but it can be used everywhere.
This is possibly the argument that we've sort of come to. It's the ubiquity of Spotify. It's their cross-platform integrated. The fact that it works pretty much everywhere with anything. They've put huge amount of care and attention into the compression methodology that they employ. So it, in terms of data consumption, it's relatively frugal and it keeps working under almost all conditions. Going to be interesting in 2018 to see if Tidal in particular, but there's also looking at the activities of Deezer, Qobuz, etc. Essentially Tidal's gone all out on quality, and they now have an exceptional platform in this regard. Qobuz has taken a different route to market with the application of quality. It's something that we might have a look at as a review item, because it is quite interesting. It's going to be interesting whether then they can now try and challenge this just effortless, it works everywhere all the time capability that Spotify has, because that, if you like, is the missing piece of the puzzle. I sort of agree with you that yes, at the moment it's very much a boost to your home listening, Tidal, rather than something which functions genuinely usefully absolutely everywhere. It can be made to work much the same as Spotify using you can set the compression rate and so on and so forth, but it's a bit of a faff, and
why would you not just use Spotify in that case? I guess is the argument.
Not exactly, because if most sane people would only subscribe to one streaming service. I've got two on the go because I'm an idiot. But Tidal does allow you to be doing full fat at home and compressed on the move, but it's just not as slick yet. Whether it will manage to do that over the course of this coming year remains to be seen. But at the moment, it's the slickness which gives Spotify the edge.
Yeah, and it's the availability as well, because Tidal's not available on everything. And a good example is in the car. That's really changed for me over the last 18 months. Having access to Apple CarPlay has really changed the way I listen, because I listen streaming wise. And I got a decent data package on my phone, so that's how I now listen to music. And it's great having Tidal, like say, for in the home on the big system and so on, but Spotify is just so easy to use, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it is, and obviously I use it a lot because I just ask Alexa's connected to it. It's the default service that she defaults to, so if I say play something or other, it goes straight to Spotify and finds it and plays it. So I'm using
most of the time anyway.
yeah, not always, but most of the time she can find it on Spotify.
Anyway, that wraps up our Editor's Choice awards for this year. So like I say, if you want to find out more details or catch up on some of the articles that you haven't seen, such as TV and so on, they're all on the homepage. Go and find them, go and have a good read of them, and leave your comments in the threads attached to them if you have any comments. Right, And just to wrap up on hardware news, because we're going to be quick here, because the time is against us, and I still have a feeling that this is going to be a super long version of the podcast. Alright, so I guess it's only fair that we bring up our favourite products of the year, and because I haven't thought about this, I'm going to hand it off to Steve.
Well, obviously, quite a few of our favourite products have already been discussed at length in our Editor's Choice Awards, because that's why we chose them in the first place. But I've got to say, if we're talking TVs, then my favourite TV of the year is pretty obvious. That's going to be the LG B7. I think it's a cracking TV, brilliant picture quality, and it does absolutely everything you want it to do. Great smart platform as well. Ultra HD Blu-ray Player of the Year, again, we've already picked this for the Editor's Choice. It's the Oppo UDP-203, the cracking player. A bit pricey, but it's well made. It doesn't have any apps on it, but as we've discussed at length already, you can get those from just about anywhere else. So picture-wise, feature-wise, performance-wise, and build quality-wise, absolutely stonking player. That'd be my choice. Those are my two big ones, really, as far as products of this year go.
Okay. For me, I'm going to choose the JVC 7900 projector. I know that's probably... I was going to say, yeah, of course you are, Phil. But to be honest, having seen the Sonys now... At length, they're good at what they do, but they're overpriced, and they really need to come down in price. And this is where the JVC is better value for money. It has better black levels, better shadow detail, and it actually does a really good HDR interpretation as well. So in terms of projector, big screen projector, that would be my pick for the year. In terms of TV, I haven't seen a hell of a lot of the TVs, to be honest. I certainly haven't spent as much time as you have, Steve, with the products out there. But the one that caught my eye at the beginning of the year, and it's still one which I think is different enough, and that's the Sony A1. I think that's just the design, the way they use the speaker, the way they use the actuator, and that kind of thing. I think it's something a bit different, and somebody had to do that, because otherwise you're just looking at a rectangle screen on a stand with some speakers built in, or a soundbar or whatever. Everybody tends to be doing the same thing. It was nice to see Sony do something a little bit different there. So I quite like that in terms of TV. In terms of disc players, I agree with you with the Oppo. Absolutely flawless playback. So if you've got the money and you want that, because there are very decent players at just a couple £100, which will give you the same picture quality, but if you want a bit better build quality, something that's going to fit nice, look nice in the rack, made of really nice materials, is quiet and silent and so on, and doesn't bang on like the roofer. It's above me at the minute. I don't know if you can hear that or not. But yeah, that would be my choices. Let's move on to Ed.
I'm going to just single out two products, mainly because they couldn't be now really go for awards, because for various reasons. But just in terms of the sheer joy that spending time with them has brought, the Tannoy Legacy Eaton loudspeaker, a product from outside of time. It's a ridiculous shape, it's a ridiculous size, and it looks like it escaped from a Jeeves and Wooster set, but I don't care. It sounds absolutely wonderful, and it's built like just wonderfully built. Absolutely fabulous thing. In terms of making you feel happier, it's really in a class of its own, and for the same reasons, it's a review that hasn't gone up yet, but it will shortly. The Roxanne Xerxes 20 Plus turntable. It's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on a record player. I mean, in the spec that was sent to us, it's £7,000 without a cartridge, but I don't care, because it's absolutely a doddle to use. It doesn't take up a huge amount of space. Again, it's built like a piece of medical equipment, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. They're just equipment that takes you beyond bald performance specs and just gives you an innate sense of happiness just interacting with it, even before you start listening to it, and that's got to be worth something.
Okay, and Hodge?
Roku Streaming Stick Plus. I've always been a big fan of Roku, because I just like things that are simple to use sometimes, and yeah, just the fact that I can watch virtually anything on it in the right frame rate and the right dynamic range without having to worry about changing anything. And something I've not reviewed, which is the Logitech Harmony Elite Remote, which I've only had for a couple of weeks, but I absolutely love it. And yeah, it takes a little bit of tweaking, which I also quite enjoy. And you have to get your setup, sort of your equipment sources sorted out to make it work absolutely perfectly. But once you've got all that done, it's brilliant, and I can control absolutely everything in the living room with it, including the lights and the Christmas tree.
Okay, and finally, Mr. Botwright.
I would follow Steve's recommendations for the LG B7 because I picked one up as well.
And would you buy one now at this time of the year, seeing it's like 1,500 quid?
I don't want to know how much it is. It's an affordable OLED, okay? You know, I've had my fun with it. Yes, it's depreciated slightly, but it just makes it seem an even better bargain now. You know, it's an affordable OLED, no obvious flaws, good all-rounder, Dolby Vision, good input lag for gaming. And also, WebOS has been a revelation for me, coming from a kind of sluggish Sony set where I just wouldn't bother with the streaming apps on the TV. You know, this has completely changed the way I'm tending to watch television. I'm just going straight to streaming services now. And absolutely fantastic.
I totally agree with you there in terms of a good WebOS system or Tizen and Samsung and so on. A nice slick system, it makes it far easier to use, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, so that's our favourite products of the year. That wraps up hardware news. Coming next, movie news. So, as always, completely unprepared for this section, as I am. The first section is what are our favourite films of the year. I can't remember what I did last week, never mind what I was saw at the cinema during the summer. I'm sure there's some really, really good stuff. But I'm going to go to Steve first, because he's probably going to say something that I liked, so I'll just copy him.
Maybe not, because I'm trying to think, what film did I enjoy the most this year? There was a few surprises in there, like Atomic Blonde, which I really enjoyed. And obviously we haven't seen The Last Jedi yet, which could be a late contender. But personally, the film I enjoyed the most at the cinema was actually Thor Ragnarok. So that would be my personal choice for my favourite film of the year.
Really?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Okay. Left field, I know. Been some other good choices out there, but that's the one I enjoyed the most. I'll tell you what I watched last night, which I absolutely loved. Didn't get to see it at the cinema, was The Hitman's Bodyguard, which I really enjoyed last night.
I've got to say I did enjoy that.
It's really funny.
Yep.
I absolutely loved it. I was really surprised. I was not expecting much because it had fairly mediocre reviews, but it was the most fun I've had in the home cinema in a very long time. That was great fun. But there's been some cracking films out this year, obviously. But I mean, I was just trying to think what I personally enjoyed the most at the cinema, and that was the one I enjoyed the most.
For me, cinema's all about spectacle. It's all about the big screen. It's all about the sound mix. It's about the picture quality. It's about losing yourself in the film. It's about a film being a certain length, but you not realising it because you've totally bought into it and you've really enjoyed it. And this film has a few flaws, but for me, it's the film of the year and the spectacle of the year, and that's Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, also 90 minutes, so nice tight running time.
I think he knocked that one out of the park. Just in the way that it's structured as well, it's really, really clever. He's known for his jumping about in time, and he does it with this film as well. And the first time you watch it, it's a bit confusing because you feel like you're all over the shop, and the timeline's not quite right, and it can be. It can pull you out a little bit of the movie, but at the same time, there's that constant threat, there's that constant ticking going on, and all the rest of it. And although I hate the score, it works so well in terms of the film, in terms of the source content and so on. That for me, that's the one that really sticks in the mind. And seeing it in IMAX as well, 2D IMAX, it was just an experience. And I think it resonated with a lot of people as well, because there were people at the cinema who probably wouldn't have never been to the cinema in about 10 years going to see this. Older generations and so on. People actually making an effort to go and see it. So for me, that's my film of the year. Ed?
I suppose someone has to say it. I found Blade Runner 2049 to probably be my cinema highlight of the year.
And what other films did you go to the cinema to see this year?
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I did go for something else. I can't remember what. So yeah, I'm choosing. It's 30. I had a 1 in 3 chance of winning, but no, it's flawed in so many ways, but it's still just extraordinary. So that's my reason. This is not my specialist area, but that would be where I would go.
I've got to say it is up there in terms of visually. The way it tells the story is maybe a little bit too drawn out. It's maybe a little bit too slow, of a slow burner, but at the same time, I think it's one that we're going to appreciate more and more when we get on disc, and we can, take our own loo breaks and that kind of thing, and break it up into digestible segments rather than sitting there for the full length of it. And who knows, we might even get a director's cut.
The disc will be coming out on the 15th or 16th, depending which country you're in, of January. Okay. It was finished at 4K, Dolby Atmos soundtrack. So that should look and sound spectacular.
Yeah, that should be good. So that'll be out when we're in Vegas, is it? Or is it just after?
Well, it actually comes out. We fly out on the 15th, so we're just going to miss it. It's the day after we leave.
I suppose you could go and beg them at Fry's, because they'll have it in stock, won't they?
Yeah. Oh, please,
I'm going back to the UK now. Right, so let's move on. Hodge?
I've seen 2 movies at the cinema this year, and I'm not going to choose The Boss Baby as my favourite. So, so by default, although I did enjoy it for its mix of nostalgia, a great soundtrack, and some good laughs, was Trainspotting 2. It was nice. I think they pitched it really, really well. It was obviously never going to be as good as the first, but they never really tried to make it that way. No. But yeah, I thought it was nicely pulled off, and I think everyone had a great time making it by the looks of it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
It was really good, and the thing that really stands out for me in that film was the Choose Life speech. They used it in the intro on the original film, and it's about halfway through in this one, but it's just so well thought out and so true. It didn't set out to be as good as the first one. There was no way they were going to catch lightning in a bottle twice, but it was enjoyable, and the whole social club. When they have to get
that was so funny.
That is just so funny. Yeah, really, really funny. So yeah, good choice there. And finally, let's go to Mr. Botwright. What's your favourite film of the year?
I don't think I've seen anything that was released in 2017, I'm afraid.
Really?
Yes,
how is that even possible?
It is possible, because I've been catching up on so much TV and stuff. And as I say, it's just been a year.
Okay, so you'll have a huge list for us when we come on to our favourite TV shows in a second. So let's go to what's opening up this Friday. It's not.
Do you really need to ask?
Do I have to ask? It's Star Wars. It's The Last Jedi.
Can I just say that my best film of the year probably will be different this time next week?
I bet it is.
We'll see.
This really might not end the way you think it will, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, late breaking news. I think it was announced last night, but Disney are buying Fox. So that's going to have an interesting impact on the Star Wars universe, because that means they get the distribution rights, and also they get Star Wars itself back under their ownership. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we get the Fox intro now.
No, we won't.
We won't. Oh. No. Why not? If they now buy Fox as a studio. Because that's the thing that's missing, is the Fox intro, the CinemaScope Fox intro. Yeah. That's what's missing.
I don't know. I guess they'll, given that the new film's obviously been distributed under Disney, or Lucasfilm, shall I say? Yeah, they're going to bring it under the Lucasfilm banner, aren't they? So the same thing they'll do with X-Men. They're going to bring that and the Fantastic Four. That will come back under the Marvel banner, which again is great news for Marvel fans, because it means they're finally going to have those characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But yeah, fingers crossed we might finally get a cinema re-release of Star Wars in its original theatrical version.
I don't think we will, but yeah, it's been going on for so long now that I think we're going to get special editions. I've resigned myself to the fact that if we get on 4K disc, it'll be the special editions. It will be the original one. I think you've just got to give in to that, Steve.
Give in to it, Luke. Your destiny.
Yeah, well, you know your feelings are. You can trust your feelings on it, right? Okay, enough. Star Wars is out this week. Go see it. I'm going to go and see it twice. I'm taking Thursday off. I'm away to see it Wednesday at midnight, and then 4:00 on the Thursday again. So I'm going to go and see it twice. I'll probably go and see it even more if I enjoy it. But who knows? It could be an absolute giant turkey, which would be appropriate at this time of the year. Right, moving on. Our favourite discs of the year now. This is Blu-ray and 4K UHD Blu-ray. We're not going to separate them out. I've got a funny feeling they're going to be 4K UHD Blu-ray, but they certainly are for me, because my disc of the year is Blade Runner. That film has never looked as good as it does on 4K Blu-ray. It's never sounded as good as it. And for a home cinema package to watch on your big screen with your Atmos sound system, picture quality is superb. They haven't scrubbed the grain out either. It's nice. It's there. It looks how it should be. It's a beautiful transfer. And I think a close second to that would be The Thing from Arrow. I think they've knocked it out of the park on that one. No, 4K UHD disc has to be blue. Yeah, has to be Blade Runner for me. Mr. Botwright.
Unsurprisingly, this was a year where Criterion released Lone Wolf and Cub box set. So I think you can guess what my choice is going to be.
It's Star Wars?
Transformers?
No, it's Criterion's Lone Wolf and Cub box set. I think I now own 6 versions of this series of films in one version or another. Yeah, absolutely top notch. Great to see Criterion releasing some of their previously Region A locked discs in the UK. And yeah, just can't recommend it enough.
Okay, good stuff. Hodge.
A bit of a thin year on discs for me, I think. I've not had an Ultra HD proper one since the beginning of the year, so I've been holding off. I can't actually remember anything I've watched. 2017. No, I'm going to have to pass on that one because I'm waiting for my new TV, and then I'll tell you. I've got a pile. I've got a pile waiting to watch.
Okay,
you've got piles.
I've got piles, and I've got loads of stuff to watch.
Okay, Ed.
Haven't bought enough Blu-rays for that to be relevant, so I'm going to say the Kraftwerk 3D vinyl box set. It's come on discs, so that counts. Head and shoulders above any other physical media purchase I've made this year. So there you go.
Good stuff. I actually enjoyed it on Tidal. I'm kind of glad I didn't pay any money on it because it's not the type of thing that you listen to over and over. Maybe you do, but it's not the type of thing I would listen to over and over and over again. So I was quite happy that it was on a streaming service. But yes, it was a good release. And everything's on there. Right, so discs coming out this week if we still want to buy stuff. This is Blu-ray and 4K UHD Blu-ray.
Yeah, Dark Tower, that's out on both Blu-ray and UHD. Yeah, not great. The Hitman's Bodyguard is out, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Recommend it highly. Great fun. That's available on.
I wouldn't recommend it highly. It's good fun. It's a good popcorn movie, and it's quite funny. But it's not a masterpiece, Steve.
No, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece. I just, it's the most fun I've had in ages. So yeah,
yeah, but it doesn't say much, does it?
Really funny, good, charismatic leads who have good chemistry together. Great action scenes.
Yeah, it was all right.
It's UHD for Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, as is the Dark Tower. I should say, by the way. So those are out. Also out on Blu-ray. We've got Game of Thrones season 7. Bad news, unfortunately, season 8 won't be screening until 2019. But at least you can spend the whole of next year catching up, can't you?
I'm just thinking I can go and get season 7. I've got all the other box sets. I may as well get season 7, and then I might actually start watching them.
Yeah. You've got a year to get through them all. Also out, that'll have Dolby Atmos soundtrack as well, by the way. Also out, we've got Arrow doing a special edition of Carrie, which is one of my favourite Palmer films worth checking out. And also coming out on 4K Blu-ray to tie in with the release of the new film that comes out on just after Star Wars is Jumanji, which I don't know, some people might like that. There are a certain age group. I always thought the effects were shocking even at the time. I can't imagine they hold up well now. But that's out.
Right, so to wrap up on this section, on this feature-length AVForums podcast, well, it is the second last of the year. It's the last time we're all together before Christmas. So I guess, well, Ed, we haven't done the best album and best vinyl release, so I think we really need to do that before we do TV shows. So very quickly, what's your vinyl release of the year and what's your album of the year?
Well, the vinyl release of the year, sorry, I already said it, is that Kraftwerk box set. Just in terms of the quality of it, the way it's been put together as a physical item and the way it sounds, and the material, just untouchable. 150 quid untouchable, but it's sensational nonetheless. Album of the year, I've actually had to do this for another organisation. I thought long and hard about it, and I eventually went for LCD Sound Systems effort, the name of which actually completely escapes me at the moment. American Dream,
right?
And that it's just good enough to be. It has all the LCD sound system calling points, but it moves the game on. I'm glad they came back. I was worried that they were just going to rehash the same things. It's a great album. It doesn't matter what format you're listening to it on as well. So don't feel that you have to buy it on a stupid, obsolete format. Just buy it. Just listen to it and enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That is my album of the year.
Okay, thanks for that, Ed. Right, so moving on to TV shows of the year, I actually caught up with Grand Tour, Top Gear. It's Top Gear just
With
another
a bigger
name.
budget.
Yeah, bigger budget and another name. And I noticed what you were on about, Ed. The music choice in the episode, not very good at all.
No, they're not not hot at it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm disappointed to hear that they haven't moved the game on. It's still one area where the BBC is kicking arses and taking
totally.
names.
Whoever the music supervisor is on Top Gear should have moved over to Grand Tour. That's maybe what the problem was. But otherwise, it's back on form. I didn't think it had any weak spots, whereas Series 1 had weak spots in terms of Celebrity Brain Crash and The American and so on, which fell a bit flat and weren't as entertaining or as funny. No, nothing like that. On the first episode of the new season, I watched it at midnight last night when it became available. I haven't seen it in HDR yet. It wasn't available at midnight, but I did watch it in 4K. Very, very good. The chemistry's there. It doesn't feel forced, whereas the new Top Gear feels really forced. I think they're trying to force Chris Harris to be the grumpy old man, and they're trying to give everybody a sort of, and it just feels it doesn't feel natural. Whereas these three have been together for well over a decade now. The chemistry's there and so on, and it works. And you either like them or you don't like them. But I found it entertaining, so it's well worth checking out. It's on Amazon at the minute. The first episode is there now for you, and it's every Friday or every Thursday at midnight when the new episodes. And it's 11 weeks this run. So normally it's only 6 or 7, but it's actually 11 weeks this run. So hopefully this will be really interesting stuff. And there's a few cars I really want to see them reviewed. I think there's the TTRS. Interested to see what they think of that. I had that out in a test drive. Bloody fast car, but boring as hell. And the one that's really piqued my interest, funnily enough, is a Kia. Have you seen this one, Ed? The Kia Stinger GT. So
I haven't.
It's no. Kia doing a performance car for the first time, a proper performance car for the first time, a V6, 300 odd brake horsepower, twin turbo V6. So and it's a saloon, and it looks a bit like the Alfa Romeo, kind of that type of thing. So,
I shall watch with interest. I do know that this should hopefully be more even, in so much as Richard Porter, the guy who does Sniff Petrol, who was responsible for much of the actual scripting and screenwriting for the glory years of Top Gear. He's been involved in this series from the beginning, and I think it's going to show up in terms of just the cohesiveness and that classic feel to how things are.
It had that. It definitely had that. It was an hour and it went over really quickly, and it had a great section. And of course, Hamster nearly killed himself again, which was really interesting.
It's pretty classic. So.
Yeah, I mean his crash in that electric car is something else. It's just a shame the cameras weren't running when it happened. It was after he went over the finish line that he crashed. I hadn't realised that was the case when we saw it in the news earlier in the year. But yeah, so that's interesting. That's new on the box. But we're going to cover our favourite TV shows to wrap up the podcast. We're going to go Ed first. What's your TV show of the year?
Part of me really wants to say MasterChef The Professionals because I just bloody love it. But Game of Thrones, I know that the book fraternity are getting annoyed at the speeding up of things and that it's moving into television pacing and it's trying to get a lot done in not that much time, but I don't care. It was still event television of the first order and I bloody loved it.
Okay,
it couldn't be slower than the books though, could it?
Well, this is true, but they essentially, if you look at how pacing has gone, as it's become less and less book dependent, it is accelerating away towards its finale, but I don't care. It was still incredibly compelling television. It looked amazing, and I had a time of my life watching it, and that's surely the whole point of this bloody stuff.
Good stuff. For me, Stranger Things 2. Simple as that. On form, expanded it out, new arc in there, all setting it up for season 3, which has already been given the green light, and the brothers have said there's only going to be 4 seasons. Which is good to know. So we know
because by then the kids will be 26.
Exactly. But yeah, at least we know where it's going now. We know where the story arc is going, and it sets some interesting stuff up. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. It's the only thing I've actually sat down and watched the whole series of really quickly. So that's it for me, Hodge.
I'm going to go with Westworld. Just the whole package, the fairly complicated plot that was all tied together very nicely.
Was that this year?
Wasn't it?
I thought that was last year.
Never. Was it?
Yeah. Sorry.
Really? I've only started watching it this year, and I only got to season episode 5 in
last year. Oh well, I'll have to go for Stranger Things 2 then.
Okay.
For all the reasons that Phil did. That was yeah.
All right, Mr. Botwright.
I mentioned it before in another poddy, but the 10-part documentary series about Vietnam.
Oh yeah,
absolutely blew me away. It genuinely educational television, insightful. It wasn't just from the American perspective. It was covering all aspects of it across multiple presidents. It didn't seem like it had an agenda. It was very much just a case of trying to pick apart a historical period and seeing, how events unfolded. And it, talking to the Vietnamese as well as American ex-soldiers, it was just absolutely fantastic.
Agreed.
Good stuff. Finally, Steve.
2 for me, really. One is Twin Peaks, which is like nothing you've ever seen on television before. It's an acquired taste, I'll admit, but there was stuff. It's basically one long film in 18 parts, but there's stuff in there that you just never thought you'd see on TV. Episode 8 in particular springs to mind. And also, for a show that just caught me off guard, I wasn't expecting it to be this good, but as I said, I mentioned it earlier, directed by David Fincher, but Mindhunter was absolutely brilliant on Netflix. Looks fantastic in Dolby Vision. Really compelling TV with a really interesting plot about the early days of the FBI criminal behavior unit and hunting serial killers. That was absolutely superb. It was so good I started watching it just out of curiosity and ended up watching it in less than 2 days because I couldn't stop. So that would be my choice, Mindhunter.
Okay, and that wraps up the podcast for this week. We are back for our last podcast next week. I think there's me, Steve, and Mark. Are you here?
I should think so, yes.
Okay, so there'll be the 3 of us, plus a special guest next week will be Danny Tack from Philips, talking about picture quality and the shootout that they did earlier in the year. So join us for that one. In the meantime, my thanks to Steve Withers.
You might want to rethink your technique.
Mark Hodgkinson.
Move ball.
Ed Selley.
I don't want any part of this.
And Mark Botwright.
Where am I?
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums for latest reviews, news and video, and of course leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for listening, and don't forget we'll be here next week for the last podcast of 2017.